Welcome to Lesson 7, Logging. The previous 6 lessons got Nginx serving traffic. This one teaches you how to see what it's actually doing. We'll cover 4 things: access docs log for every request, error log for every problem, log format to control what gets captured, and tail and grep to read it all in real time. Reading logs is the single skill that separates a beginner from an operator, and every debugging session from here on starts in these files. Here's the map for the next 40 minutes. First, access log, 1 line per request, combined format by default, and you'll learn when to switch it off. Second, error log, 8 severity levels, and why debug is a trap in production. Third, log format, building your own line with timing fields like request arc time and upstream response time. And fourth, the shell side, tail, grep, awk, zcat. That last group you'll reach for more often than Nginx itself. Start with access log, because this is the line you'll stare at most. Combined format, 8 fields, every request. Left to right, client IP, then 2 dashes you can ignore for now, the timestamp in brackets, the request line in quotes, method, path, protocol, then the status code, the bytes sent, the referrer, and the user agent. Learn these names once: remote adder, time local, request, status, body bytes sent, HTTP referrer, HTTP user agent. After that, every access log on every server you ever touch reads the same way. Now the directive itself. Out of the box, Nginx already logs to var log nginx access.log in combined format. You don't have to do anything. The 3 knobs you'll actually reach for: put each site in its own file by declaring access log inside the server block, silence noisy endpoints with access log off inside a location, and point at a named format when combined isn't enough. Rule of thumb, turn logging off for health checks and static asset directories. Everything else, log it. That's access docs log handled. Now the other half, error log. 8 severity levels, least to most severe. Debug, info, notice, warn, error, crit, alert, emerge, start at warn in production. Debug will flood your disk in under an hour, and you don't need info-level chatter for healthy traffic. A typical line gives you timestamp, severity, PID, and thread ID, the request ID, and what actually failed, like that connect, refused while talking to an upstream. Learn to read that shape. You'll see it 1,000 times. Now, error log tells you what broke. Access log tells you what happened, but only if you format it right. The default combined is fine for a blog. It's blind in production. No request time, no upstream time, no real client IP when you're behind a CDN. So you define your own. 3 recipes cover almost everything. Timing when you're hunting slow requests, realip when X forwarded 4 matters, and JSON when logs ship to Loki or ELK. Rule of thumb, timing for debugging, JSON for aggregation. Once your format is right, reading the logs is just shell work. 5 commands cover 90% of it. Tail F is your first reflex. What's happening right now? Pipe it through grep to isolate 5 VKX errors. Awk on field 1 gives you top clients. Awk on the request field gives you top URLs. And zcat reads the rotated archives when you need yesterday. Tail and grep for live triage. Awk for aggregation, zcat for history. Memorize that order. Now step back and ask why this matters. Metrics tell you something is wrong. Dashboards tell you which thing. Logs tell you why. Every request gets its own line. No sampling, no averaging, no dropouts. That's free observability, written automatically, readable with grep. Datadog and Honeycomb cost real money. A well-formatted access log plus a tail, F workflow, gets you 80% of the way there. The rest is fluency, asking the right question faster than any dashboard. To ask the right question fast, you need vocabulary. Nginx exposes over 100 variables, but in practice you'll lean on about 10. Remote address, ISO timestamp, request line, status, bytes sent, request time, upstream response time, and X forwarded for when you're behind a load balancer. One quick note, always use time.iso 8601 over time local. It sorts correctly and parses cleanly. Build your log format from this list, and you're covered for nearly every production case. Vocabulary alone won't stick. You need reps. 3 drills on a real running Nginx. First, open a tail F on access.log and hit your site with curl until watching logs scroll feels normal. Second, define a timing log format and route it to its own file so you can see request talk time and upstream chat response chat time on a slow request. Third, generate mixed traffic and use grep, awk, sort, and unique to count statuses and find top clients. Do these once, and the muscle memory is yours. Once the basics are muscle memory, you need to know the traps. 5 mistakes that won't break the site on a quiet day, but will blind you the moment something else does. Debug logging left on in prod fills the disk in an hour. Time local instead of time ISO 86011 makes logs unsortable. Health check noise buries real requests. No rotation and var log eventually kills Nginx. And behind a load balancer, remote adder is the LB. Log HTTP XX forwarded for, or you're chasing yourself. That's lesson 7. You can now read an access log field by field, decode the 8 error levels, shape your own log format, and reach for tail and grep without thinking. This is the foundation every later lesson leans on. When something breaks in proxying, caching, or TLS, you'll start in the logs. Next up, lesson 8, reverse proxy basics. Proxy pass, the X forwarded headers, buffering, and timeouts. See you there.